Hey everybody, and welcome to the final part of the Future World Park playthrough. Now in the last episode, we essentially filled in the remainder of the space in the park with nearly all the rides I wanted. We made some changes to the mine train to start with. Then we added a Vekoma boomerang, then a Heartline twister at the back of the park, followed by a flying or laydown coaster, which I was really happy with the way it turned out there. A B&M twister, a Woody, and a log flume. So as I kind of touched on in previous episodes, I'm going for a different strategy with this park this time out, mainly due to the harder guest call, and also I'm planning to spend quite a bit on landscaping in this final part. So yeah, I thought it was a good idea to get all the rides down early, and then therefore hopefully get the guest count quicker than I usually do, and that way also get a really good amount of income being generated, meaning I should have the amount that I need for decorating and landscaping later on. Anyway, so the first thing I worked on for this episode was basically the area that I was working on towards the end of the last episode, which was the Planet Earth themed area. I kind of used this theme as an excuse to go back to a decorating style that I was more comfortable with, I guess. And I also thought it would be a fun theme to incorporate for a kind of futuristic or future world style of park. Or even a park that was based on another planet, such as Mars, I guess. I did actually add a couple more rides as well, in the pirate ship and the Ferris wheel, just to kind of fill out the area a bit more. It was looking kind of a little bit sparse there, and I wanted more than just the wooden coaster and the log flume. I would have really liked to have a merry-go-round or carousel in this area, but I don't think I was going to unlock it in time. Actually, it might not even be unlockable in this scenario. Anyway, despite that, I kind of went for a little lake or a pond, and just used lots of trees and shrubs like I usually do on most playthroughs. Mixed up land textures as well. Tried to make it all blend together with the surroundings, which was quite challenging given that it's kind of red martiany rock all around the outside, but yeah, just kind of tried to mix up those land textures and blend it in as well as I could. I'm reasonably happy with how it turned out, given the limited space to work with. I tried especially hard not to put too many trees or shrubs kind of on the edge of the map, just because the transition would have been even more kind of abrupt just on the edge there. So yeah, just kind of made the vegetation more sparse as we got closer to the edge of the map. I added a little plaza with some gardens at the front of the Planet Earth themed area, as well as a mini entrance gate to the zone. Even though I really like decorating in RCT, those gardens are something that I really don't use that often, and I should probably try and incorporate them more into my playthroughs, because they do actually look quite nice, I think. I think it's perhaps because when I used to play as a kid, I probably went way overboard with the gardens, and when I look back on those older playthroughs, it's kind of jarring in a way. So maybe that's why I've steered away from them in recent years. But no, I think I'll try and incorporate them a little bit more from here on out. Of course, being in RCT1, you don't get to choose the colors of the plants like you do in the more recent versions of RCT, but there's still enough variety to pick from, and I think you can make some pretty nice looking stuff. Added a nice little fountain in the middle of that garden plaza as well. Looking back on it now, I probably should have added a fountain just in the body of water itself. That probably would have looked kind of nice. Looking back on it now, I'm actually really happy with how that log flume turned out. I thought it would be a bit of a challenge to make it look good in a tight space, but no, I'm pretty happy with how that came out. Anyway, after spending about 3 or 4 in-game months decorating the Planet Earth themed area, it was then time to move on to the adjacent spot on the map with the B&M twister and the third monorail station. I was really undecided with this area, but I ended up doing kind of a spaceport area. I was thinking of like a space station or a space western sort of theme. Unfortunately, the space theming set wasn't unlockable in this scenario, which was a bit of a pain because I was kind of counting on that before I started the playthrough. I think that would have, fit into the area quite nicely, but anyway, it wasn't to be, so yeah, I went for a bit of a spaceport. theme without that. Luckily, the abstract theme, the theming set there was really turned out quite useful, because those fences in particular, with all the colors you can pick for them, you can make kind of modern looking fences and buildings with that. Anyway, so as well as a couple kind of buildings just along the main path there, I tried to make the area look reasonably rocky as well as modern at the same time. There's not much vegetation going on in this region. I did add a couple extra rides, including the motion simulator just near the first drop of the first main drop of the B&M Twister, which is kind of awkwardly wedged into that little pocket just in front of the monorail station. But I did want to have at least something up in this area of the map, otherwise there's not really too much point of that monorail station. The B&M Twister was a coaster. After I built it, I was like, I wasn't 100% sold on it, but I don't know, it's another thing. Similar to the log flume, the more I look at it, the more happy I have become with it, I suppose. I think the color scheme works out pretty nicely here. That dark purple, it's just, yeah, it's really, I really like that color actually. I don't use it a whole lot, but turned out quite nicely here. Actually spent quite a lot of time landscaping in this area, just making sure that bits of the coaster track that were sitting directly on the ground were lowered and had the support showing, because I always think that helps make the ride look a bit more realistic. So as well as the area just in front of the monorail station, I ended up adding just one more ride, which was the 3D cinema. I was planning to put this in the kind of the future city sort of themed area right at the entrance of the park, because I think that would have probably looked most appropriate there. But I decided to put it at the back here, just to have another kind of attraction at this side of the park and give people more of a reason to go up here. I basically went for the same sort of color scheme as the B&M Twister, which is just next to it, and yeah, I think that came out reasonably well. Tried to make some sort of a plaza at the top of the map there. I was considering adding a path that kind of went behind the B&M Twister and then alongside the monorail and then kind of wrapped around the flying coaster, but I think it would have just looked a little bit awkward, so I decided to just keep that as a kind of arid little pocket of the park, nice and rocky and just a bit of an unused valley. But I didn't completely neglect it, I guess. I did do a bit of terraforming and landscaping in the end, which I think turned out pretty nicely. In hindsight, I probably should have added a food court to the area, to be honest, but I guess there wasn't a whole lot of space left just around the monorail station anyway. Speaking of the monorail station, I did give it a building in the end. I was going to leave it, but I thought it would be a good excuse to get another building around the area there. Again, used a lot of the abstract theme trimming, I guess, and added lots of rocky and dirt landscape just to mix things up, make the area look a little less monotone. I actually did end up adding a couple desert-style plants near a small body of water between the Flying Coaster and B&M Twister, as well as a little lookout platform you might have noticed, kind of extending out from the future city. I thought this would be a good way to kind of blend some of the areas together. I was really unsure of what to do with that crater, basically the entire playthrough, but I just ended up going for that small body of water, which was, I don't know, a bit of an easy way out, but even if we did pretend that this theme park was on Mars, I'm pretty sure Mars has a bit of water here and there, although I could be wrong about that. Even though I wasn't working with trees and shrubs like I usually do, I did really enjoy seeing what I could kind of come up with, just using, just the landscape and terraforming variations around the place and the different surface textures in particular. I have tried to give each area or theme in the park a bit of a border, either being a fence or a bit of like slightly elevated land around the perimeter of each kind of zone. Just something kind of physical to separate the areas and make them feel more distinct, I guess. I kind of continued on in the same regard with the mining area with the little mine train coaster here. Probably more biased towards the dirt land surface texture as opposed to the rocks. Did also use lots more scattered mining scenery, plus a few of those little mine buildings, which are definitely some of my favorite items to use in RCT. I think the mine train turned out to be one of my favorite rides in the park. I was really pleased with how long the track ended up being, especially given that the lift hill only goes up 3 height units above the station. So I made sure to do lots of decorating around the tunnels for that coaster as well. Something that I've noticed with tunnels in RCT is that if you raise the land above it, it can sometimes vary the height of the tunnel, and it makes the otherwise the train and the guests' heads even can kind of clip through the tunnel entrance. So yeah, just raising the land can increase the height of some of those tunnels, which make it look a little bit more sensible. I think by this time of the playthrough, I finally threw the research onto shops and stalls, so I could put in a few extra types of stalls for the peeps, which I'm sure they appreciated. As good as hot dogs are, it's nice to change it up every now and then. I had about 4 or 5 different hot dog stalls in the park at this stage, and basically nothing else. I then eventually got into the volcano themed area, which perhaps unsurprisingly got a lot of landscaping and terraforming treatment with the rock and dirt textures thrown in again. Really tried to make an effort to merge in the land to the volcano scenery objects in particular, just so they'd look a little bit less, the transition would be a little less abrupt, if that makes sense. Something else you may have noticed is that I've been using one of the half-broken mine wheels, which is part of the mine scenery set. And I've just kind of scattered that throughout the park. I've actually done this quite a lot of late in other playthroughs as well, as I think it kind of makes it look like little rocks around the place, especially if you rotate that scenery piece in particular as you scatter them. So I did that quite a bit here as well. And the great thing is I think they work on the rocks, the dirt, and even the Martian red rock here. I think it works quite well on basically any of those surface textures, so that was quite handy. As well as some of the raised land between the various themed areas of the park, I also spent quite a bit of time putting a land border around the edge of the park, particularly around the underneath the monorail. Spent a lot of time landscaping around the stand-up coaster, lots of rock landscaping here in particular, as I wanted it to kind of complement the white track of the coaster that stood above it. Then made some modifications to the car ride that kind of went around the volcano, so I could incorporate one last ride to the park in the flying saucers. I was going to put the flying saucers over near the space rings, kind of just next to it and next to the lift hill of the mine train coaster, but it was going to be kind of a bit of a squeeze because the flying saucers is a 4x4 flat ride. And I thought I could do something clever at the base of the volcano there and kind of color the surface of the flying saucers orange to make it look like a bit of a lava lake or a lava pad. Which I think turned out reasonably convincing. And during this time, I was kind of going back and filling out different bits of the park, just putting in the odd fence or two and entrance signs to various themed areas. Started unlocking some more shops and stalls. Unfortunately, I only unlocked the souvenirs, the fries, and then the balloon stall, I think, or maybe one other stall. It was. I kind of wanted maybe a bit more food variety in the park, but that's all right. I got a couple extra stalls, so I threw some of them down. Looking back at it now, I kind of wish I maybe added a few more curves to the monorail track overall, especially on this section here. It's not the most exciting just having it in a big straight line like this, but Anyway, it still looks reasonable enough, and I think the land surface or the terraforming underneath gives the area bit of curvature, I guess, in a way. So yeah, I guess it's not too bad. Then eventually got around to dressing up the next monorail station, which I was going to leave, but it did feel a little bit incomplete the way it was, and I'm not a huge fan of the elevated path as well. So ended up giving it mostly a mine-themed station building, which I think came out alright. Used quite a few of the mine banner signs just at the base of the building to make it look like, more convincing support columns or something. So yeah, just added a few final touch-ups around the place just to finish off, including a few more food stalls, some additional staff, and I was just about done. I wasn't spending too much time looking at the guest count, which was a little bit silly, but I think I finished the park reasonably comfortably in the end, with about 1,600 guests and a pretty healthy park rating. I think this new strategy paid off, as I had plenty of money in the bank, almost, or just over 50 grand to finish off with, which is absolutely not what happens to me usually. So I may adopt this style of building most of the rides first and then do the theming and decorating after, but we'll see. I often do find it tempting to decorate rides as I go because I usually have some ideas as I'm building a ride, even if it ends up being less profitable in the long run. I think the soft guest cap is actually well past the guest count objective, but since I was charging so much for the rides, the whole playthrough, the guest turnover was really high. Guests would be spending all their money really quickly, so I still needed to push the advertising campaigns pretty hard throughout. But anyway, that's just about all I've got time for. Sorry this ended up being quite a lengthy video, but I hope you enjoyed it in any case. I'm going to finish off the video by just following along all the coasters in the park. There is quite a few, but I was really glad to hear that a lot of people seem to enjoy that when I asked on the Leafy Lake Park playthrough, I think it was. So thanks for that really positive feedback. The next scenario on the list is probably Diamond Heights, I think, which I'm kind of looking forward to, but I realize it's going to be a bit of a challenge as well, as it's not the easiest to make a sensible looking pathing layout with, and yeah, some of the ride layouts are going to be kind of challenging. But of course, you do have those classic rides as a really good kind of starting point for the park anyway, so that's going to be really fun to go back and try that one out again. Anyway, that's about all I've got time for now. Yeah, really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in the next one. Thanks very much, and cheers. Bye.